you go buy the, usually just oil and, but if you look on, I don't buy cookbooks anymore. Just look on the internet. Vegan, I like silken tofu. I use it for everything. Vegan mayo, silken tofu, and you can find a recipe. You just stick the silken tofu, a little bit of lemon juice, nutritional yeast, and a little sweetener in your Vitamix, and you have vegan mayo. So
we're back. And thanks for everyone online for being patient. We had lost power for a second on the computer, so we had to reboot. So sorry for the delay. And yeah, without further ado, I know we're ready to get started. Pam Birrell, let her introduce herself, and we welcome her here. Loud is for the group here, and then talking into the microphones for the people online. And then whenever there's a question, either online or from the audience, Pam will repeat the question so people online can.
Right, you got it. Okay, so there's me and Romeo. Romeo is the world's tallest steer. He is in the Guinness Book of Records, and he lives at a farm sanctuary in Cresswell. And I'll be there tomorrow morning because I volunteer there. I'll be there in the morning visiting Romeo. Next one, Ed. No, it's just off of, is Camuswale the main one that goes through town? Right, it's off of there just a little ways. Okay, you want me on screen, okay. It's on a place called Hurlburt Lane. Hurlburt. Yeah. And this is where I'll show you a bunch of pictures here because I love my farm sanctuary. So that's where we are. Next one, Ed. Okay, I am the psychologist and I get to lecture on 3 of the pillars of lifestyle medicine. So tonight we're going to talk about stress. Anybody have stress? Sleep, how's your sleep? And then often we think of just social connection, but I'm talking about connection in a much wider sense. Next one, Ed. Okay, so this is me. This is me and Buster. Buster is also at the sanctuary, and he's called Buster because he busted in from the neighbors, and he had been neglected there, and so he didn't grow as big as he might otherwise. And so, but Buster lives there with Romeo and Romeo's brother Milo, and then 2 other steers called Charlie and Oliver. And they're the steers that I go and work for. And I am a PhD psychologist. I taught at the university for about 40 years, and I also did psychotherapy. About 10 years ago, I retired from the university, and 3 years ago, I retired from my private practice. In terms of my vegan journey, I have an unusual one. I am what is called an accidental vegan. I grew up in the hippie era, and so I always was on the vegetarian side of things, but I didn't know much what vegan was, but it seemed like a kind of a good idea. But I would do vegetarian things, and I would think about people like Romeo, right? What happens to male cows? They end up as veal, right? So if I'm eating milk, am I really loving cows? Because I'm killing baby male cows if I'm drinking milk, and not to even think about how the female cows are treated. But one year, about 17 years ago, a friend of mine went on a raw diet. And I thought that was way, way, way extreme. I would never do anything like that until she convinced me to try. And so I ate only raw food for almost a year. And at the end of that year, I realized I was vegan. I mean, I tried, you can get raw cheese, and of course I wasn't going to try raw milk. I tried raw cheese and it made me a little queasy, and I never ate sashimi or any of those things. So I was like, oh, I'm vegan. I guess I'll stay this way. And I've been that way ever since. And so my original impetus to become vegan was not like anybody else's, that I had high cholesterol or anything like that. It's just that I always wanted to be vegan. I always had this soft spot in my heart for animals. And I always knew inside of me that when I ate butter, or even if I ate fish, that somebody was suffering for that. And so when I realized I was vegan, I just rejoiced and never looked back. And now I'm completely vegan. Have been. I haven't had. Every once in a while, if you get. I went to a fancy hotel and they had avocado toast for breakfast. It came with an egg on top of it. So I've had a couple of eggs that way because I really miss eggs. But that's the only thing I really miss. And so I'm raw on and off. Sometimes I'll do a raw day or a raw week because I just got used to that. Trish, did you talk about green smoothies last week? You haven't talked about green smoothies yet? Because I have green smoothies all the time. So I'll wake up in the morning and I'll stick a half a pound to a pound of spinach in my Vitamix. And then I'll add some blueberries, half of a frozen banana, a little hunk of ginger, and some flax oil. And I'll have almost a gallon of green smoothie then. And that's most of my food for the day. And I'll drink the green smoothie until about whenever I finish it. And then if I'm still hungry, I'll have something else. I love tofu. I don't usually eat salads because I mean, really, a pound of spinach, isn't that enough for your greens? So that's usually what I do. And I'm just really happy with everything about it. So, oh yeah. I immediately lost 30 or 40 pounds that I've never gained back. I am going to turn 80 this year, and I'm a yoga teacher. I work at the farm. I started volunteering at this farm sanctuary. And so my volunteer job as a PhD psychologist is to shovel shit. And I'm going to go out in the morning and help clean up, especially the goats. You'll see some more pictures of animals here. And, I just feel great. And a lot more energy. Yeah. But I think the big thing for me has been more spiritual than anything. And I'll be talking about that as we go through. Next one, Ed. It's always been pretty good, but not really. Okay, so I want to know about you and why are you here? Just to hear me because you heard there was this great speaker tonight, or was there? Why are you at this series? Why? What are you looking for?
What we might want to hear.
Uh-huh.
And some people talked about stress, other people
Mhm.
talked about anxiety. And I just think as everyone ages, we have to deal with those issues maybe a little bit more because many times you have more time to be
Right.
stressed to think about things now.
Yeah. As you get older, the
Yeah.
stress, the anxiety, sometimes depression. Yeah. Plant-based, I can tell you, lifestyle medicine is the best for that. I mean, really. Yeah. Anybody else want to say? Yeah.
I've been looking for this all my life.
You've been looking for this all your life, huh? All right. Well, you found it. Yeah. And it only gets better. I don't cook much. I'm not one of these cooks. I'll have my green smoothie. And today, other than my green smoothie, I took some, you're going to laugh at me. I'm just not a cook. I found some corn tortillas and some fat-free refried beans. And I folded the corn tortilla over the refried beans. And I heated it up and then I put some salsa on it.
Wow.
That's all the thing I do. Occasionally, my daughter really loves baked meats. And so sometimes I'll eat those. I don't go out and buy them, but baked meat. Yeah, baked meat. It turns out that if you go to Market of Choice, there is a brand called Prime Roots. It's plant-based, smoked turkey, salami, and ham, I think. Prime Roots is the brand. I haven't looked, I'm sure it's not healthy. But if you want a submarine sandwich, they're pretty darn good. Okay.
Next question.
Yeah.
So, I like smoothies too, but do you feel that you get enough fiber?
Fiber? It's all fiber.
I mean, a mix of fibers. You know, do you add other things in your smoothie?
No, well, I add
Like hemp and.
Um, okay, I like adding flax oil. I add a tablespoon of flax oil, but you could add black. Okay, the honest truth is the reason I use the oil instead of the seeds is because the blender's easier to clean. But you could add a handful of chia seeds if you wanted to. So yeah, just play with it. Yeah,
So we try to avoid oil.
Yeah.
And oil's oil.
no, it's not.
Calories.
Oil is not oil.
Okay, I meant,
Okay, and I'm not the expert on this, maybe you two could add in, but flax oil is omega-3s. And omega-3 oils act very differently at the physiological level than omega-6 and omega-9 oils. And if you want to find out more about this, there is a doctor online named Brooke Goldner. And she's the green smoothie queen. And she has a whole lecture on omega-3 and omega-6 oils. Omega-3 oils, and if I say anything wrong, guys, you let me know, are like used to actually repair cell membranes. It's a very different metabolism than other oils. So, but I'm a PhD, I'm not an MD. Yeah, Ed,
How much flax oil would we put in a smoothie?
I put in a tablespoon of flax oil. Tablespoon and a half, something like that. Any more than that, and I get the runs. Yeah, keep refrigerating.
I might add that the flax seeds have fiber.
Yes,
That
they
the
do.
flax oil does not.
Right.
So our deficiency is fiber in our diet. So you do want to get the omega-3 benefits, but the flax seeds, theoretically at least, I don't have any experimental evidence in front of me, would be the healthiest choice.
Probably.
Even
yeah.
though you had to do a little more cleaning on it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
And the issue is if you do not have a high-speed blender as high as a Vitamix, you
Yeah.
can't shred the flaxseed as well.
Yeah.
So then you could buy the flaxseed in the meal form that's been shredded.
The other thing though is I like my smoothies not so thick, because both chia seeds and flax seeds will make it thick. And if I'm drinking that thing all day, I don't want to be I want to be eating with a spoon in the afternoon. So, okay, yeah.
what's the person's last name?
Goldner, Goldner. You can find her all over YouTube.
And can you saute with that?
No, it's very, you buy it refrigerated. So it's very, very heat sensitive. So you could use it as a salad dressing. But no, you can't heat it. But she's really good. She is very interesting. She's 49 now. And when she was a teenager, I may get to my lecture or not, who knows? When she was a teenager, she was diagnosed with lupus. And during her teenage years, she had kidney failure. She was put on an experimental chemo to subdue her immune system. Then she went to medical school and she was having mini strokes. And then she met a guy, and she was vegetarian. She was always vegetarian. And then she met a guy that wanted to marry her, and she told him, I'm not going to live very long. And he said, I'd rather have a short life with you than a long life with anyone else. So they got married. But it turned out he was a trainer, and he didn't eat dairy because he thought that was bad for you and only ate meat. So she became vegan because she didn't want to eat the meat and she wanted to lose weight for her wedding. And so just started eating raw vegetables, and her lupus went away. And she now 20 years later has had no recurrence of lupus. And she's written a book called Goodbye Lupus, and then she's written another one called Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol. So she's fascinating. And every Wednesday on YouTube, she does a question and answer session. So definitely recommend her for anything. And she's got a really interesting talk online about omega-3 oils.
I think 75% is vegetable or greens when she makes it.
Yeah, her greens, I mean, she packs them. I make them the same way she does.
Yeah.
You just pack them down in there. Yeah. And sometimes I use mango. Sometimes I really like blueberry though. Yeah. Not so much strawberry. I don't know.
Liquid,
What?
liquid.
Water.
Put some water.
Yeah. Yeah. You pack the spinach down, then you add your fruit, and whatever else thing. Sometimes I add amla powder, sometimes I add, different things. And then you fill it up with water to the level of the spinach. And then you turn on the blender and walk away for a minute and come back. Anyway, that's me. That's what I do. So here's our 6 pot. Yeah.
Well, I came for a review, I'm gonna keep this whole session, the last block of the class of people. So I really could feel like one of these about joy is to put on this weight, and I'm not losing weight particularly, I lost about 10 pounds. But
What do you mean you're not losing weight particularly and you lost 10 pounds? I'm sorry.
you did, so you were more out,
Yeah, it
But I-
happened.
you know,
Uh-huh.
but I don't, I stick pretty much well, I love being vegan, I really
Yeah.
enjoy it. I think it might be just a matter of eating too much, I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you're having trouble, you can't.
Mhm.
You can't eat everything you want
Yeah.
if it's all nutrient dense, right? Because what I find now that I didn't have before, I was always dieting my whole life. And what I find now is like, today I had my refried beans and tortillas and I made 3 of them because that was my food for the rest of the day. And I ate about 2.5 and that's enough. And so if I'm eating well, if I'm eating really good nutrient dense food, I don't need to worry about how much. Yeah, if I'm cheating and have white rice or something like that, then I pay attention. I'm not as good as Charlie.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time on these 6 pillars. I've been thinking about this a lot. Some of these things you can intervene with directly and some not so much. So, of course, we have healthy eating, and we do a lot of that in here, and I think that's so important. But then, and we also have exercise, right? And then minimizing risky substances. Those are the other 3. Now, all of these are things that you can do, right? You can decide to have a salad instead of a steak. You can decide to go for a walk instead of vegging out in front of TV, right? You can decide not to have that beer or that glass of wine or that cocktail, right? So those things are choices that you make. The 3 I'm left with, they always do this to the psychologists, are a little bit harder, right? How do you get good sleep? I don't know if anybody else does this, but sometimes I'll lie in bed and I'll think, I don't know how to go to sleep. Does anybody know how to go to sleep? I mean, it's like sleep just happens, right? A friend of mine today said, well, you just have to relax enough to let sleep find you. And I said, but sometimes sleep's a really long ways away. But anyway, it's something a little more subtle. You can't just decide to get good sleep. When it comes to things like stress, I mean, how do you manage that? We have busy lives. We do have a lot of stress. We worry about things. We have, a huge political system going on that's crazy. We have just, it's hard. How do you manage your stress? These are a little more subtle. And connection. Yeah, you can go out and talk to people, but how do you really connect with them? So these are 3 factors. But the important thing about these pillars is they're constantly interacting. And one of the things I'll be talking about today is that when you eat healthy, I have this as an N of 1, my experiment. When I drink my green smoothies, I sleep better. I have one of these little Aura rings that gives me a sleep score every night. I love it. It's very fun. And if I'm having my green smoothies, I will have sleep scores in the 90s, 94, 95. If I don't have my green smoothies, I can watch those sleep scores starting to go down. And there is data that shows that eating well will interact with your sleep. It will interact with your stress because a lot about stress and anxiety and depression has to do with inflammation. And if you're eating the standard American diet, you are inflamed. So these things really interact. So the ones you can choose, I want you to choose, which is eat healthy, exercise, don't drink, don't smoke. I mean, nobody does that anymore, but don't even smoke marijuana. Why would anybody pull smoke into their lungs? It's just weird. Those you can do. You can go out and talk to people. But the more you do those, the more that's going to spill over into your stress, sleep and connection. Okay, next one. Yeah. My Aura Ring. Okay, so you know that you can get all of these little personal devices. You can get Apple Watches. You can get, my daughter has something called a Hume thing. I don't know what it is. So this is a ring, Oura, and it costs about, this one I got it on sale. It was $250. Yeah, but I've got an app on my phone. Okay, and so it measures things like heart rate, body temperature. It'll measure activity levels, things like that. And so that I'll get a report every day about my sleep score, how well I did on exercise, about levels of stress, and resilience. And so that way you can kind of follow how you're doing. And it's kind of interesting because I've sort of grown out of my ring. I don't use it as much as I used to, but it used to be I wake up, how did I sleep? What's my sleep score? And it'll measure things like stress level. And like today, I took a nap before I came because I was just exhausted. And my ring, I looked at my ring, my app on my phone, and it said, you are more relaxed today than usual. so, so that's my ring. It's just interesting way to follow. And I'll do things like, not so much now, but especially when I first got it. Well, I have to go for an extra walk today because I haven't gotten my exercise score. And it punishes you if you have really good sleep and stuff, you have to exercise more. Occasionally, I'll wake up and it will say major signs of stress. So if my body temperature goes up or my heart rate doesn't go down, it says you better take it easy today. So, when I, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. It records your pulse. Yeah. Resilience has to do with heart rate variance. And variance is, we'll talk about this a little when we do breathing, is that if you take your pulse, you will notice that when you inhale, your heart rate goes up. And when you exhale, your heart rate goes down. And the bigger the difference between those two numbers, the better your heart function. So I actually went to a new doctor last year, and she was she did my heart, listened to my heart. And she said, now I'd never heard any, she said, let's just for the fun of it get an EKG. And I'm like, she said, I don't know. It's just a little off. And I said, okay. So I got over to Mackenzie Willamette and I got an EKG and it was fine. And I went back and I said, that was fine. And she said, what had happened was, she said, she knew I was 79 years old. And basically my heart rate variance was too high. It was much higher than she expected for somebody my age, because the heart rate variance goes down as you get older. So I've still got a pretty high one, which is good. It's a healthy thing. Yeah. Heart rate variance. If you breathe in, your heart rate goes up. And when you breathe out, your heart rate goes down. And that's just a really normal thing. I used to try to cheat when they were taking my pulse by only breathing out. I know I'm weird, but yeah. And what you want is you want to keep a big difference between those two. And as we get older, that difference goes down. So she made a really good mistake with me. Yeah. Yeah. Really? Well, my phone has never told me to call 911. Well, usually it'll tell you why. Huh. Uh-huh. Oh my goodness. So the ring knew that she was going into AFib. Well, if my ring tells me to go to 911, I have to call them, I will. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one, Ed. Okay, this is me and Fred. Fred is a goat at the farm, and I don't know if you'll see pictures of him. We thought he might have cancer. It turned out he just had an infection, but I spent an afternoon with Fred at the farm. So, next one. Okay, mental health. I'm going to skip that one. Do you know what mental health is? Well, let me just say a couple of words about it. Is that we all get depressed. We all get anxious, right? We all have stress. So, mental health is not about not having any of those things. Mental health is about having ways to cope with your inner and your outer environment. And this is what lifestyle medicine is about, is keeping you in a place where you can cope, because life's going to throw you all kinds of rocks and flowers, your whole life. And how do you meet what comes into your life? So that's what mental health is, this ability to cope and to be resilient and you can just sit meditating. In fact, I do Zen Buddhist meditation, and you just sit and you watch your thoughts. And we have a bunch of thoughts. It's been estimated that 98% of our thoughts are useless. If you sit and you listen to your thoughts, it's like it gets kind of boring, and they repeat the same thing over and over again. Lots of people, and I'll talk about this in a bit, hear a lot of self-criticism in their thoughts, or you really should. Anybody ever have that thought? Oh, you really should. Or anybody ever have the thought, that was stupid, right? Did anybody else ever have that thought? Okay. Or I'll go home tonight. Now, I guarantee it, I'll be in the car tonight and going home, and I'll be thinking, oh, I should have said X, or I bet that they didn't like it. I watch this inner dialogue going on. One time about 2 years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm lying there. And that sometimes happens. I don't stress about it. And this thought came into my head. And the thought was, you're just a useless old woman. And you know what I did? I laughed out loud. What a stupid thought. I mean, why do we believe our thoughts? They're all socially determined. They come from our background, especially if we've had abuse in the past. We're going to be pulling in thoughts of what we've been told as a child. And so you can watch that thought. And good way to learn mindfulness is meditation. It's not necessary, but doesn't mean that you have to sit in a half lotus position in the morning and light a candle. What it means is you're out walking and you're listening to a podcast, and you turn it off and you just think to yourself, I'm just going to watch my thought for 3 minutes. Just going to watch what comes up. And you keep walking. Okay. And you might decide then that you don't want to listen to that podcast anymore. Maybe you begin to appreciate silence. Maybe you begin to like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I'm kind of an interesting person. I think all kinds of interesting and weird things. That's mindfulness. And so then when there's a crisis, when something comes up and you're upset, you have that built in and you say, okay, what am I thinking? Right? And then you might catch yourself thinking you're a useless old woman, or you might find yourself thinking, stressing about what's going to happen tomorrow, or regretful about what happened yesterday. And you can pull yourself out of that mindset that's unhealthy and come back to this moment. Our minds don't live in this moment. Our bodies do. And the more we can have this deep connection with our bodies, the more calm we become, and the more just centered, and the more compassionate we become. So I'm just looking at the time here. Let's take a minute. Okay. So I'd like you to take just a minute, and if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. If not, you can just soften your gaze and just listen to what's going on outside. Become aware of your body, the seat on the chair, how your skin feels where it's covered with fabric and where it's not covered. Maybe a little muscle scan. Is your butt tired? How's your neck feeling? And just watch your breath. And then stop and come back into the room. You just meditated. Wasn't such a big deal, was it? Yeah, our minds don't. Watch your thoughts. Your thoughts are going to be saying, "Oh, I regret what I said yesterday, and I'm scared what's going to happen tomorrow." Our minds are like back and forth, but our body, it only knows now. Now it reacts to our mind. If our mind is thinking, okay, so I wasn't going to talk about that yet. I'm preparing this talk. Yes, and I'm using some old ideas, and when I was teaching, it's like I could be thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. I have to give this talk. It's awful. I'll never get it right. This is just going to be, it's just, and if I'm thinking that, what do you think my body's going to do? Like that. But if I'm thinking, oh, I have a talk to give, it's usually a nice group. Nobody's run me out on a rail. Usually people like what I have to say. Then my body has a different response, right? They just follow along with that. So, and then the other part of mental health is being able to take care of yourself. But I mean in meaningful ways. My ring helped me take care of myself because I was rooting for the highest sleep score I could get. And since we know I can't just go to sleep because I don't know how to go to sleep, right? I had to do a bunch of healthy things to make my sleep score go higher, right? And whether it's like, I had a very stressful weekend, stressful weekend. I'll talk about that in a minute. I haven't been sleeping as well as I usually do. My sleep score was less than 90. And so I was exhausted today. I took a nap, right? It could be having an extra green smoothie. There's unhealthy self-care. If I had decided, oh, what I really want is ice cream, that might sound good in the moment, but I know I'm not going to sleep tonight. So, and that, what's healthy and what's unhealthy. You could say a green smoothie does not sound like good self-care to me. I'll just say, try it. Add extra fruit as you begin. I love a snag of ginger in mine. Just make it fun. Yeah. And then this is important when it's dealing with anybody here have an inner critic who says, yeah, you're just a useless old woman, or says that was stupid. And again, people who've come through abusive pasts or even strict parents take that voice with them into adulthood. And so just become aware of that. If your thoughts are saying you're stupid, you don't have to believe your thoughts, right? You could think something different. Coming into something that's kind of stressful, I have to give this public talk. I could think, oh, this is going to be awful. Or I could think, this is going to be fun. right? And so, and if you're aware of what you're thinking, you can say, oh, wait a minute. Do I really want to think that? And what you find out, what I have found out, and with a career as a psychologist, is that the way you treat yourself is often reflected in the way you treat others. There's a sort of unconscious bias, and the more you can deal with this inner critic, you will find yourself less judgmental of others. Absolutely guaranteed. Okay? Any questions? I feel like I've lectured. Well, I am a psychology professor, so there you go. Okay, next one. Stress. Okay, next one. Okay, chronic high stress is terrible. It's terrible for our bodies. It results in a lot of inflammation. Our amygdala is the emotional center of our brain. And once the amygdala gets activated, you are stressed, you're anxious. You don't know exactly why you might be. Ever happened to anybody? I'm anxious, but I don't know why, and just feels like doom. That's because your amygdala has gotten inflamed. It's called an amygdala hijack, and it's just sort of, you're just stressed. You adrenal fatigue. You pull up cortisol and adrenaline, and you get adrenal fatigue. HPA is the HPA axis, which I don't need to talk about. And we really go into the fight or flight response. Now, it can be, if a bear walked into the room, we would all have fight or flight, wouldn't we? Right. We do one or the other, right? But there's a wonderful book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And the reason zebras don't get ulcers is the lion comes after them, chases them like crazy. And then if they get away and the lion goes away, if you watch them in the wild, they will do this. It's like that. And then they go on about their day. Then they start eating again, right? They don't carry that with them. But what do? You're in traffic and somebody pulls in front of you. God damn it. These terrible drivers. And then somebody else runs a red light and then you're late. And so we don't ever do this and start over again, right? And actually there are some trauma psychologists that teach that. They teach that response when you've been traumatized. And then you go back and you start eating your grass again. So next one. Okay. And this is an important thing, is distress and eustress. I had a lot of eustress this last weekend, a lot of eustress. I'm a flute player, and I had a concert to give. I had a dress rehearsal. I had my granddaughter's birthday. I had a little bit of sleep problems. It just like went on and on and on. Today I had my hardest yoga class of the week, and it just felt like a stressful weekend in that way. So I was always on. I was always doing things. I was performing. I had to wear my black concert wear and all of this stuff. And it was a blast. That's eustress. I love speaking. I love connecting with people. I love playing my flute. I love making music with people. But my ring told me all weekend that I was stressed. But not high stress, but my ring calls it engaged, right? So that's eustress. But distress, if you're in an abusive marriage or if you've had a car accident, there are real things that are really distressing. But often you can transform things in the middle by how you think about them. Next one. Okay, let's play this video.
Don't aim to live a stress-free life. Aim to to live in the stress sweet spot. Think of stress like an inverted U-curve. Too little stress, and we fail to act. But too much stress, and we feel paralyzed. Paralyzed by an overwhelming number of things to do, people to impress, or bad events to avoid. When we enter this paralysis zone, most of us turn to our phones or food to hide from stress. But avoiding stress is like putting your problems on a credit card. They just compound, and you pay more for them later. Instead of running from stress, we must take a few quick but critical steps to calm down, see a problem clearly, and then do something about it. Here are 5 quick steps to help you back away from too much stress and find that sweet spot where you're calm, collected, and motivated. Step 1. Embrace it. Believing stress is bad does more harm than the stress itself. An 8-year study of 30,000 Americans revealed that people who reported high stress had a 43% higher risk of dying. At those rates, stress kills more people than skin cancer, HIV, and homicide combined. But here's the kicker. That increased risk of dying completely disappeared if participants didn't see stress as harmful. In fact, those who viewed stress as neutral or something good had a lower death rate than people who experienced very little stress in their lives. Dr. Kelly McGonigal explains in her book, The Upside of Stress, that when you see stress as bad, your blood vessels constrict and stress accumulates. But when you view stress as a performance enhancer, your blood vessels relax and widen, sending more oxygen and performance-enhancing hormones, like DHEA and oxytocin, to your brain and body. DHEA helps you learn faster, while oxytocin gives you the courage to reach out for help. So when you feel stress, love it. Think, this stress is a sign that I care, and embracing stress increases my ability to seek help and remember valuable lessons. Stress response step number 2, box it. Your breath is the fastest way to change how you feel. Breathe in for 4 seconds and then rapidly exhale out to feel a shot of stress. Now breathe in for 4 seconds again, but gradually let all the air out and you'll feel a wave of relaxation. Longer exhales calm you down, while shorter exhales amp you up. If we want to operate in the stress sweet spot, we must optimize our breathing so we are alert and motivated, but not anxious. In the book Unbeatable Mind, former Navy SEAL commander Mark Devine explains that Navy SEALs use box breathing to stay deadly calm in life or death situations. Before entering a terrorist compound to release a handful of hostages, they breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, then repeat. So, the next time you encounter a problem that causes a stress spike, go directly into box breathing mode while you move in to take out the problem like a Navy SEAL. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, and repeat at least 6 times. This breathing rhythm will stop your mind from racing and generate a powerful sense of control. Stress response step number 3, get moving. Lack of movement leaves us vulnerable to stress, but once moving, it's hard for stress to pin us down. It's like a sniper struggling to hit a moving target. We are built to move. Our brains largely evolved to deal with complex movements. So if you want your brain's help to find a way out of your stressful situation, get moving. I like to create a steady rhythm of action and generate positive momentum by routinely counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. A behavior hack I learned from Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule. The countdown gets me out of my chair and walking to the kitchen to get a drink of water, or going outside to get some fresh air, or going to the garage to do a brief workout. The key is to waste little time hunting for the perfect move and just move. Stress response step number 4, get present. In a stressful state, your thoughts become horror stories about what things mean and what's going to happen. These stories amplify fear and anxiety. Ruminating about what might happen doesn't help you complete the very next action to eliminate your problem. Thankfully, there's an easy trick to silence these stress-amplifying stories. Look for the voice in your head. We all have a voice in our head that we call the self. But when you turn your attention toward it and look for exactly where it resides in your head, you can't find it. For a brief moment, The voice in your head disappears, and you experience a moment of silence. For the few seconds you're free of mental chatter, tune into one of your 5 senses to stay present and not be stressed by thoughts of the future. Focus on the colors in your visual field, or tune into your hearing and try to hear the faintest sounds. Or tune into the feeling of tension in your neck or the wind against your face. If you're immersed in what you see, hear, feel, taste, or smell, you stop the onslaught of negative thoughts and stay locked into the present moment. I like to quickly recall the 5 senses by remembering the consonants in the acronym, SHIFTS. Stress response step number 5, be thankful. Imagine tomorrow you're stuck in traffic and late for a critical meeting. Your heart is pounding and stress is building. Now imagine you're 90 years old, sitting in a wheelchair, struggling to remember your grandchildren's names. That 90-year-old you would trade places with stressed out you in a heartbeat. I call this technique self-envying because you're envying your current self from your future self's perspective. I learned this technique from William Irvine's book, A Guide to the Good Life. When you look back at today's problems from the perspective of your future, much more frail self, you realize how lucky you are to have the problems you have. If you're stressed out by a work deadline, remember that 90-year-old you would be thrilled to have a sharp mind capable of meeting deadlines. If you're in a heated relationship conflict, realize that elderly you would give anything to have the energy and opportunity to make up with someone they love. So when anxiety grips you, ask, what would 90-year-old me give to have this problem? In the end, the next time you feel stress building up at work or at home, love the feeling and start box breathing. Then get moving, be present, and be thankful. Those were my top 5 steps for managing stress. If you'd like a PDF summary of these steps, click the link in the description below and I'll email it to you. If you already received the Productivity Game newsletter, this PDF is in your inbox. If you want to
Response, breathe. Breathe in for 4. Okay, I'm going to count. All right, ready? Ready to breathe? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. That's the box. And he said to do it 6 times. You can, if you start looking up breath and breathing, you can find all kinds of things. The important thing here is that is exactly what he said, and it relates to that heart rate variance. The longer the exhale, the more you have of a lowering of anxiety. So Andrew Weil, I think it's 5, 7, 8. And what he does is 4, 7, 8. You breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. And if you can build up to that, it's like you can't stay stressed because your heart rate's just really going to start falling. So breathe, become aware of the breath. I teach yoga, and we always start, you coordinate your breath with your movement. If you're paying attention to your breath, you're not paying attention to all of those silly thoughts that you're having. And then transform stress into a challenge. And the thing that I used to point out to my clients, they'd sometimes be mad about this, is that, they'll come, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous about something. The physiological response we call nervousness is the same physiological response of what we call excitement, right? So you could say, I'm nervous about this talk, and you could talk yourself into being nervous, or you could say, I'm excited about it. That's the same physiological process. So let yourself do that. Take some time to journal. Some people really like that. That helps us get things out on paper, connecting with others. Anybody else do any other things to reduce? Yeah. Yeah. Read the book, Breathe, and join a book club too. That's a really good way to get connected. I'm reading Michael Pollan's latest book right now. It's called A World Revealed. It's all about consciousness studies. It's very fun. So, so yeah, and that reading a book like that, and then you're connecting with people at the same time, right? Go for a walk. Anybody have any favorite special stress things they do? Breathe. Okay, breathe. Have a green smoothie. Have some nice food that's anti-inflammatory. Bring down that inflammation response. Watch the inner critic, because the inner critic's really involved there if you're really anxious. And his last one on self-envying, I don't quite get, but I do think it's important to practice thankfulness. And the way I do it, especially when I'm driving, let's say I'm in a traffic jam and I didn't make that light and I'm late, and this person pulled in front of me, and I can think this is awful. But the thing that I think now, I changed my thoughts, that I think now is, you know, if I had made that light, I might have been in an accident. Prove me wrong, right? And so I could think, yeah, okay, so I know I'm safe here. So, but just be thankful for where, I mean, we live in a country, I mean, we have a lot of problems, a million problems, but we have enough to eat. We can choose a plant-based diet. There is so much to be thankful for. So, okay, next. Oh, and eat these foods. Eat all this good stuff. Leafy greens, especially. Dark chocolate, good. Fermented foods. Okay, next one. Okay, I'm not going to go through this, but I was interested in, and that's that's pickles and Tuve and Yebo, the goats. I'm giving them treats. Okay, so alternate nostril breathing has really actually been demonstrated. It's an old yoga technique, but there's actually been studies done on it. So you put your two fingers on your right between, and then use your ring finger to close one nostril and breathe in through the other. And then change fingers, put your thumb against, and so you're breathing out through the other. And then in through that same one. Change fingers and out. And there's been studies that have shown if you do this for 4 or 5 minutes, it actually balances hemispheric activity in the brain. Yeah, it's very common yoga thing. So you breathe in, and you could combine this with your box breathing. So has everybody got their right hand up there? Okay, so close with your ring finger and breathe in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Now your thumb, breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In through the left. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out through the right. 2, 3, 4. Hold out. 2, 3, 4. There's, yeah, some probably, I put 2 up here and then use your ring finger and your thumb. Doesn't matter, you could do it this way too, but that's how they teach it in yoga. So, yeah, oh, I liked that. That was good, yeah. Mm-hmm. There I am with animals, yes. Another thing is to pet your cat or dog, right? There's been, I don't know if it's true. I've heard that when you pet your cat, your blood pressure goes down, but we'll get to that. But I mean, this is this is my therapy. When I go shovel shit tomorrow, that's my therapy. Next one, Ed. Sleep. Okay, next. Next. All right, don't be sleep deprived. It does all times of terrible things to you. Those of us who are older, anybody ever pull an all-nighter in college? I pulled one, but the next day I was having hallucinations, so I never did it again. So don't deprive yourself of sleep. Cognitive impairment, impaired moral judgment, pure immune system, risk of diabetes, growth suppression, risk of obesity. Next one. And however, if we get good sleep, we get enhanced immune function and disease resistance, increased energy and strength, improved weight loss. Weight loss has to do with how well you're sleeping, blood glucose regulation, coordination and flexibility, and better hormone levels. So we're striving for good sleep. Next one. Oh, we don't need this. That's too many. It does good things. Next one. Okay. So you can look on the internet. This is where the sleep is the hard one. I was telling my friend, my colleague today, that when I taught intro psych, I gave a lecture on sleep because you do that. And it was unsatisfying to me, but I summarized all the current research we had on sleep at that point. And then I thought, this is unsatisfying. But then I went to a conference and there was a doctor giving a talk on sleep. And I thought, maybe a doctor, they'd really know about sleep. And I went to this lecture and it was my lecture. It was just the exact same thing. Sleep is elusive. And the way I start, do you know how to go to sleep? Okay, so it's an elusive kind of thing. And so you can find all this on your internet. Establish a regular schedule. Make sure you start winding down and going to sleep at the same time. Create a relaxing bedtime routine. And that's like my friend said to me, let sleep find you. Well, sleep's not going to find you if you're on your phone and you're eating ice cream. I guarantee. Sleep is not going to find you. Sleep is going to find you when you've turning out the lights earlier, you're staying off of screens earlier, you go to read a book rather than looking at YouTube shorts, which is my addiction. You optimize your sleep environment. I make sure. I'm not a very good housekeeper. Not a very good cook, not a very good housekeeper, but I make my bed every morning because when I go to bed at night, I feel taken care of. My bed's made and it's, I've arranged the pillows and everything. So things like that to create this really good sleep environment. Of course, you're not going to drink coffee before you go to bed. I used to be able to. Regular exercise will help. And you're going to manage your stress, and you all know how to do that now, right? You spent the day managing your stress. Sunlight helps, especially getting out in the early morning or getting out at twilight. Avoiding napping. Anybody else try anything? Oh, I have one more. Sometimes I'm not a good person to talk about sleep because it's one of my superpowers. I usually do it quite well. But when I can't sleep, there's a YouTube channel called Get Sleepy. And you tune it in and there's this guy and he says, welcome to Get Sleepy, the podcast where we relax. Where we listen, we relax, and we get sleepy. And then he will tell you a story. And he's got this beautiful British voice and he tells a story. He gives you a bedtime story. And I have gotten with Get Sleepy, with this one, I do not hear the stories anymore. I don't know what the stories are about. Welcome to Get Sleepy, the podcast where we listen, we relax, and we get sleepy. I'm gone. But when I first started, I would listen, and they were silly stories. My favorite one is about Lily's rainy day bakery, where she gets up early and she goes to the bakery and bakes things. So they're boring. That's another thing is to bore yourself. In fact, that's my next slide, Ed. What?
Constrict and then
Yes.
relax
Yeah.
your muscles starting at your toe
Mm-hmm.
and moving just up to your body.
Yeah, it's called systematic muscle relaxation. And you can find those kinds of tapes on YouTube as well, lots of places. If you get an app like, I have an app called Insight Timer, which has things like that on it. So you can do progressive muscle relaxation, listen to those kind of tapes. I have trouble with those because I want to be a good student and I want to do it all. But a boring story lose me.
To my
There you go. Works for you. Yeah.
What's the thing to call on YouTube?
Get sleepy.
Get sleepy.
Yeah.
And I don't do it every night, but if I think I might be having trouble falling asleep, I like white noise, so I
White
use
noise.
a fan.
Mm-hmm. A white noise machine or when I was, last time I was in practice, I had white noise machine. But now, there's all kinds of different noises. There's pink noise and brown noise. And some of those are really good. Yeah, was there somebody?
Don't fight your chronotype.
Your chronotype. I'm gonna get to the chronotype. So eat all these things and show me the next slide. Isaiah, show me the next one. Okay. I thought, go backwards.
I love that one.
I know, we'll get to that one. I thought I had one. Bore yourself. Where did that slide go? Do something boring. Decide to get up and read nutrition labels. Have a cold room. I love sleeping in a cold room with it, I always open my bedroom window, unless it gets under 25. So, the fan, the cold room, again, that's creating this environment where you're making yourself available to sleep when it comes. And as Ed said, chronotype. We have different chronotypes, which means chrono with CRONO,
which means time. My ring tells me that I have a morning chronotype, which means that I sleep best pretty much between 10 and 6 or 9 and 5 at night. I have a friend who is a very, very good psychologist, hard worker, very accomplished. Her chronotype, her whole life has been to go to bed at 7 and get up at 3 or 4 in the morning. It was a nightmare when she had small kids, but it has never changed. She comes to visit, she goes to bed at 7, and you want to tell your story?
I've trained my whole life for professions that operate exclusively on a 9 to 5. And I found out that was slowly draining me and killing me inside. And my chronotype is like it's so offset to night owl that it's called a disorder.
Okay, so it's not just a chronotype, it's a disorder one.
Delayed sleep phase disorder. I'm a night owl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a creature of the night. And so I quit my job and I got a pizza delivery job. And I don't eat the pizza, but I mean, the hours are incredible. It works so well for me.
Yeah, I love that story. It's just perfect. And some people, when I was in college, that was my chronotype, 3 in the morning till 11. And mine was variable, but like yours and like my friend Jennifer, some people, no, you're not going to change it. So you might as well change what you do. And I think your solution is genius, absolutely genius.
I want a ring. I want your ring.
Yeah, they're real fun. Yeah. They go on Costco.
I want to see it.
It was actually they have them at Costco now. Yeah, I think about 300 pounds. Yeah.
And what was it called?
Aura, O-U-R-A, Aura ring. Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then this one, this slide here, this is Milo. This is Romeo's brother. He wasn't feeling good that day. So cute. He's so cute. Okay, next one. This is our Thanksgiving
at the farm. At Thanksgiving at the farm, we have a Thanksgiving feast. What else do you do? So over on the left there, in the front left, that's Johnny Rose. And he just ate a whole bowl full of cranberries, which I thought was some sort of karma. And there's Flora, and we baked them pumpkins, and we brought them berries, and we do that every year. It's the most special thing. And we have a new turkey named Figgy. And Misty, who owns the farm, decided she needed a new turkey the day before Thanksgiving. So she actually went to a turkey raising place that raises turkeys for eating and bought a white turkey named Figgy. She is the sweetest turkey. She'll follow you around till you stop and pet her. And she just melts into the ground, and she's got these beautiful silky white feathers. And it's just incredible. Who would ever eat a turkey? Okay, next one. I just noticed I got things. Okay, connections. Okay, I've got 7 minutes for connections. Okay, next one. You got another one, Ed? Okay. Okay. Social connection is a really good thing. It reduces our risk of mental illness. It boosts your happiness and self-esteem. This is all research evidence, helps you manage stress, promotes a sense of belonging, and fosters personal growth. Okay, so we all know, and the reason I put this boring slide up there is these are research studies. This isn't just a good idea, that they've actually found these things in research studies. Next one. Okay, so again, social connection helps you maintain a healthy weight unless, you've seen this data? Unless you have fat friends. So I don't know why that's true. All of this helps you control blood sugars and improves cancer survival, decreases heart disease deaths, decreases depression, improves PTSD symptoms, and improves overall mental health. Okay, next one. Okay, depression. I'm bringing out depression here because social connection is so important to depression. Isolation and poor social connections are a recipe, absolute recipe for depression. And I worked with many, many depressed people over the course of my career. And there was not a single one of those depressed people who had good social relationships. So have you ever, has this ever happened to you? It's like you maybe have a day and you don't have much energy and things aren't going really well, but maybe you go to the grocery store and I wear a sweatshirt all the time that has Star Trek logo on it because I'm a Trekkie too. I love Star Trek. And I'll have this really good interaction with the person at the counter about Star Trek. You know, we'll have an argument who's the best captain or whatever it is. And I'll walk out of there feeling better. Has that ever happened to you? Probably not around Star Trek, but a number of things. Just that moment can lift and it improves resilience. And the best thing is to have quality of interactions. You can have 1 million friends and feel lonely, right? And so there's a difference between one deep connection where you feel safe with someone and you can say anything you want to say versus, 100 casual friends. So look for those deep social connections and cultivate them. They don't come easy. Next one. Okay, the rabbit effect. Do you know the rabbit effect? I've talked about it before. Oh, okay. So there was this experiment done where they fed rabbits diets high in saturated fats. Guess what? It's not good for rabbits either. The rabbits got high cholesterol and damage to their blood vessels. However, when the researchers were evaluating the data of this experiment, they found that all of the rabbits had high cholesterol, but only half of them had damage to blood vessels. And they're like, what's this about? And they were trying to figure out what is the rabbit effect. And it turned out that all the rabbits who had damage to their blood vessels were in cages on the top shelf. And so the research assistant would come in and feed them. And she would just reach up there and give them food. But the ones on this row, right in front of her, she would feed them and she'd pick them up and cuddle them. Was the only difference. And so those rabbits who got picked up and cuddled had high cholesterol, but they did not get the blood vessel damage. So go home and cuddle someone, right? Or your pet. Next one. Okay, this is where it's not social connection. And this is where the whole lifestyle medicine comes together, is that we connect with ourselves. if you are managing stress and you're listening to your thoughts and you're managing your inner critic and you're breathing, you begin to develop a better relationship with yourself. It's like, I'm kind of an interesting person. And I have a very, very interesting inner critic. And she is much less active than she used to be. Not because I argue with her, but because she just got tired of me. I had a client once who had this very vicious inner critic. And she decided, I hope nobody has this name here, she didn't like the name Joan. So she named her inner critic Joan. And so she would come in and I say, well, what did Joan say this week? And she'd be like, well, you wouldn't believe what Joan said on Thursday. And the more we talked about what Joan said, the more Joan kind of lost her steam. And it's like, oh yeah, Joan, you know, I couldn't believe it. I hadn't heard from her in several days and she piped up and it's just ridiculous. So, and so once she had dealt with her inner critic and Joan wasn't there so much, she could really develop a much more positive relationship with herself. And then we have the breath work, the yoga. I'm also a yoga teacher, and Dottie's not here tonight, but she really wants me to teach you guys yoga. But and yoga doesn't mean we're going to stand on our heads. You know, it's just a very mindful movement. And so notice how you're sitting. And you know where your sternum is? This breastbone, right up in the upper chest. Okay. So just pay attention to that place, that sternum. Okay. And then just lift the sternum about an inch and notice what that does to you. And then tuck your chin just a bit and relax your shoulders. And breathe. That's yoga. And I teach older people, and you know, as we get older, we tend to do this, don't we? Right? But yoga, just bring that sternum up and let the shoulders down the back. You can do something that's called an awe walk, which is go for a walk, don't take your podcasts, and just look. I mean, I went out today and it was beautiful, right? The daffodils. When I was in music, I learned this wonderful Renaissance motet about daffodillies. So I always think about daffodils being daffodillies, and they're awesome. You can meditate. You can develop these self-care routines that are really, truly, deeply self-care. And this one is a big one, which is a relationship with something beyond ourselves. And you can call that whatever you want to call it. You could call it God. You can call it nature. You can call it consciousness. You can call it awareness. Whatever works for you is that there just comes this sense of there's meaning in your life and you can relate to it. You're part of it. You belong and you find a purpose in life. Next one, Ed. And then the self-compassion begins to develop into compassion for others. And you can learn to be with your own pain in ways that are self-nurturing. Let yourself cry. Okay, last one. We got to get this little video in. Okay. Oh, no. Romeo and Mama and Ava. Any questions? Okay.
I'm around here fairly much. I don't come every time, but I'm also listed on the website if anyone has any questions or comments and wants to meet up and learn more. Thank you for offering. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Next week is cardiovascular.
Next week?
Cardiovascular one piece. Cardiologist.
Next week. Yeah.
Who gets your name again, dude?
And Birrell.
I'm Birrell.
Birrell.
I'm on the plant-based providers.
Yeah, on the About Us section on the Live Lifestyle Us website for profiles there.
They're the only psychologist.
And Birrell. Yeah.
Birrell.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, it was